Hello Mila, hello Jack, hello everybody else who's watching. Welcome to Storytime with Grandad. Today's book is from the Mr. Men and Little Miss series, and it's Mr. Busy. There has never been anybody quite like Mr. Busy. He could do things 10 times as fast as ever you or I could. For instance, if he was reading this book, he'd have finished it by now. He lived in a very busy-looking house which he'd built himself, as you can see. It had lots of doors and windows, and do you know what it was called? Weekend Cottage. And do you know why? Because that's how long it took him to build it. One fine summer morning, Mr. Busy was up and about bright and early at 6 o'clock. He jumped out of bed and had a bath, and cleaned his teeth, and cooked his breakfast, and ate his breakfast, and read the paper, and washed up, and made his bed, and cleaned the house from top to bottom, by which time it was 7 o'clock. Busy Mr. Busy. Now, next door to Mr. Busy lived someone who wasn't quite such a busy person. In fact, a very unbusy person, Mr. Slow. If he was reading this book, he'd read it like this. He'd still be on the first page. And that same fine summer morning, at 7:05, when Mr. Busy knocked at his door, Mr. Slow was fast asleep in bed. He'd gone to bed for an afternoon nap the day before, and somehow hadn't woken up until he heard Mr. Busy knocking at his door. "Who's that knocking at my door?" he called downstairs. "Good morning," cried Mr. Busy. "Can I come in?" And without waiting for an answer, he went inside. "Where are you?" he called. "Upstairs," came the slow reply. So Mr. Busy went upstairs 2 at a time. "Good heavens," he said, "you're still in bed." And he made Mr. Slow get up. And he made his bed for him, and he cooked his breakfast for him, and he cleaned his house for him. Poor Mr. Slow. He hated to be rushed and fussed. "Right," said Mr. Busy briskly. "It's a fine day. Let's go for a picnic." Mr. Slow pulled a face. "I don't like picnics," he complained. "Nonsense," replied Mr. Busy, and busied himself around Mr. Slow's kitchen, making up a picnic for the two of them. It took him a minute and a half. "Right," he cried when he finished, "off we go." And he bustled Mr. Slow out of his front door, and off they set. As you can imagine, Mr. Busy walks extremely quickly, and as you can imagine, Mr. Slow doesn't. So, by the time Mr. Busy had walked a mile, do you know how far Mr. Slow had walked? To his own garden gate. Mr. Busy hurried back. "Come on," he cried impatiently, "hurry up." "Hurry up," replied Mr. Slow. "Impossible." "Oh, all right," said Mr. Busy. "We'll have a picnic in your garden." "Wait a minute, though," he added. "The grass needs cutting." And he rushed back to Weekend Cottage, and rushed back again with his lawnmower. And he rushed up and down, cutting Mr. Slow's lawn. It took him 2.5 minutes. It would have taken him 2 minutes, but he had to mow around Mr. Slow, who couldn't get out of the way in time. "Right," cried Mr. Busy, "picnic time." And together, on that fine summer day, they had a fine picnic. Well, actually, Mr. Busy had a finer picnic than Mr. Slow, because he ate more quickly and had most of the food. Mr. Busy stretched out on the grass. "That was fun. I like picnics." "You do. I don't," said Mr. Slow. "Tell you what," went on Mr. Busy, ignoring him. "Tomorrow we'll go on a proper picnic out in the country." Mr. Slow pulled a face. "And," went on Mr. Busy, "in order to do that and get you out into the country, I'll have to call on you earlier than I did this morning." Mr. Slow pulled another face. See you tomorrow then, said Mr. Busy, and went home and cleaned his house from top to bottom. The following morning, Mr. Busy jumped out of bed at 5 o'clock, and had a bath, and cleaned his teeth, and cooked his breakfast, and ate his breakfast, and read the paper, and washed up, and made his bed, and cleaned the house from top to bottom, by which time it was 6 o'clock. He went and knocked on Mr. Slow's front door. Come on, he cried. Time to be up and about. Picnic day. No reply. Come on, cried Mr. Busy again. No reply. Mr. Busy went inside, and he went upstairs 3 at a time, and into Mr. Slow's bedroom, expecting to find him in bed. But he wasn't. And he wasn't anywhere upstairs. And he wasn't anywhere downstairs. Bother, said Mr. Busy. I wonder where he's got to. Where Mr. Slow had got to was under his bed, hiding. He didn't want to go on any picnic. Not he. Bother, said Mr. Busy again. That means I'll have to go on a picnic on my own. Under his bed, Mr. Slow smiled a slow smile. What a good idea, he said, and went to sleep, snoring very slowly. The end. Goodbye, Mila. Goodbye, Jack. Goodbye, everyone who's been watching. Bye-bye.